Hello everyone, this is Indrajit from Informatica Global Customer Support. Today we are going to talk about search service performance troubleshooting. So the agenda for the video is to discuss about search service basics and connectivity, and also search index creation, search results and performance. We'll talk about common issues that has been uh, basically observed in search service. Also, we will see few troubleshooting tips with search service. As you see in this screen, the search service basics and connectivity. The center of this screen, we can see the search service itself, and it has multiple components as its primary component here. Like you see the search index and permission cache, and those two components are connected to model repository extractor, business glossary extractor, and profile warehouse extractor. So what exactly these extractors do is basically extracting contents from different repositories. Like here, model repository extractor extracts the information from model repository, and business glossary extractor extracts the glossary terms from model repository again. For both of these, actually it connects to the model repository through MRS service. Another extractor we have is profile warehouse extractor. So these profile warehouse extractor also connects to profile warehouse using the data integration service, as you see in the screen. This also actually extracts the column profile results and domain discovery results from profile warehouse and stores into the search service index location. So you see here a search index gets created when we enable a search service, and it generates the search index based on the contents in model repository or in the business glossary objects or in the profile warehouse. So after this search index gets created, it actually stores the permission information as well. So on the objects, to know if the object has permission to be searched by the users, right? So this is the basics of search service. And also we have two different clients to search the primarily search the objects. As you see here, the search service connects on the right side. You see the analyst service, and it connects to the analyst tool. Also we have business glossary desktop, so that is also used as a client to search terms in using the search service. So in this slide, we will see how a search index gets created, and the relevant logs that actually tells that the index got created properly or not. So the search service performs each search on a search index instead of model repository or profile warehouse directly. So that increases the search performance, and also the terms response faster. The search index also, the search service also doesn't be dependent on these services. It actually searches based on its own search index that gets created from the contents, as I've told you in the previous slide. So in this example, we see below messages in the search service debug log. First, actually it initializes the MRS extractor, and then it finishes the extraction initialization, and it lists the number of projects or groups to be indexed in the search index location. And you also see here in the highlighted section that it shows the search service finished the indexing project. So once it lists the number of projects from the MRS, it creates the index on them, and it also shows where the index gets created, the directory. So these directory location we configure while creating the search service. If the directory doesn't exist, the search service creates the directory in the location that you mentioned. Along with that, one important information that you see at the end of these logs, that index took such such milliseconds to start the server after completing the index. So in the next slide we will again see how the other extractors get created, like for profile warehouse extraction and business glossary extraction. So you see here the extraction of profile warehouse has been started, and it took some time to fetch the results from profile warehouse, and then it shows how the extractors get ended, and there are no messages which shows that there are any issues in during the extraction process. And at the end we see the business glossary extractor starts extracting the permission for business objects. And so this is very much important to know that the search service stores the permission information of each user, so that it will know which user has permission to search which object. So it relates to that through search index and through the permission cache location. So you see in the log, as in the log, it creates those permissions index, extracts those permissions and creates the index on that those objects from business glossary extractor. So here again, in search results and performance we can see multiple things, like the search service performs each search on a search index instead of model repository, as I have told you earlier, or profile warehouse, and returns the search results from the search index. So the search service performs each search on a search index instead of model repository. So every time a new term is added, it takes so much time to get indexed in search service index directory. So it needs to create index on the recently added objects as well, right? So for example, if you set the extraction interval to 360 seconds here, a user may have to wait up to 360 seconds before an object appears in the search results, as it will take time to get the index created for new objects that has been added to the MRS. So for a search in analyst tool, the corresponding analyst service sends the search request to the search service. Similarly, if you are submitting a request in BG desktop tool, it sends the request to the search service. So let's look into the logs to find out what happens when we search a term in analyst or BG desktop tool. So here you see, for an example, a profile object has been searched in analyst tool. But please remember, before you see these log information in search service, you need to change the log level of search service to debug, as by default it will be info and it won't show these messages in detail. So here you can see that the search service receives the query once we submit from analyst tool and or business glossary desktop tool, wherever you chose to, and once the query gets submitted, it checks for the user permission. So here the administrator is the user that I have searched the term, and it validates the permission is there or not, and once the validation is done, it starts constructing the query and submits it to the Solar Engine. So in the highlighted section and above, you see this, it actually says the query that is passed to the Solar Engine, and also in it completes the construction of the query and sends to the submits it to the Solar Engine, and it based on that the search service processes the query and shows the results to the user. So you will see a Solar Engine query as well if you look into the search service logs. I didn't put it here as it may look bigger, and I suggest you to check those logs as well when you search a term. So next slide we will see how and what are the common issues that has been observed in search service. So I have taken few examples like these issues, and in example 1 you see cannot start search service on any node specified for the service. So these issues occurs when the index directory is read only, and let's say for example, provide here to resolve that, provide correct index path with the right permission, and Also, it could be due to old search index, and that has not been removed in the after upgrading to a new search service version, right? So there are reasons, and we need to see the logs to find out what is causing this. So example 2, you see a search service index file size grows abnormally. So these kind of issues are observed in previous versions, and we have seen that the h2 library was upgraded. Just for an example, in that scenario, we have seen the h2 library was upgraded to 1.4.1.9 version in 10.11 hf1, and that actually address the performance issues with indexing. So there is a known limitation with that h2 version which had caused that. So another important example that I would like to discuss here, like non-admin users are unable to search business glossary terms. So non-admin users were basically not able to search any of the terms, and this behavior was noticed on the servers that contain few hundred of users. And also, after the user permissions are changed on business glossary reserves for any user or group. So the permissions has been changed, and there are a lot of users that has been added to the server, which leads to these kind of issues. So basically, the user permission extraction and indexing takes many hours sometimes to finish. So when the number of users in the domain is more. So also the permission indexing occurs every time there is a change in the glossary security, like addition of new users or business glossary resources, or change in glossary permissions to the users. So these we have to take as a note that before we start searching a term, the search service is ready for for the search, and the indexing has been done appropriately. And if there are multiple users or terms has been added to the glossary, make sure that it gets completed, and verify from the logs that the extraction and indexing got created on time. So you can refer to the KB articles that I have mentioned with the examples to know more about these common issues that has been observed with service. In the next slide, we will see the few troubleshooting tips with search service. Like first is enable debug logging, and first and foremost for search service to know what is happening in the backend, right? So just enable debug logging and refer to the logs. Go through the logs, see if the index got created, or if there are issues with startup of search service, or there are issues while searching a particular term, or there are no submission requests of a query from search service, right? So these are the things, and also you can ensure that the process is up, or it goes down to isolated startup or hang issues. Another thing is make sure that the XMX or JVM process properties are appropriately configured to avoid any Java out of memory issues. Another scenario that in troubleshooting tips I would like to mention here, that there are multiple scenarios that a search service may not work, or there would be any performance or hang issues. So the first I would like to say that when a query is submitted to analyst tool and search service doesn't respond or returns any output. So basically for that, collect multiple JSTAG on search service along with search service logs in debug mode. You can collect analyst service log and check if there are messages related to search terms. So basically when the search service does not respond, so there is an issue with the search service itself. So it is very much important that we focus on the search service stacks and also the logs. Along with that, we will see if there are any issues on the client side, basically the analyst service or any related services. So second scenario, when the search service is running fine, however analyst tool hangs or goes to not responding state when a search term is submitted. So I am submitting a search term in analyst tool and it goes to hang state. So it could be an issue with the analyst tool itself, or it could be that search service is not able to take the response. So basically you can, if you have a business glossary desktop tool, you can submit a search request there and check if the search works from that. So that will ensure if it works, that means there are no issues with analyst tool, or it could be no issues with analyst tool but with the search service. If it doesn't work, that means an issue with the search service itself. So another scenario is, I mean, in this case you can collect the JSTAX analyst service along with the node process, for the node process together. Also collect analyst service and search service logs, and the MRS logs as well. So these are the reference logs we need to collect. For the third scenario, again, when the search service index creation fails with error, so basically we may able to see some hprof files gets created in info home tomcat bin directory, and you need to share the same with us, and also the info9 logs collected on the search service and the domain log. So these are a few basic troubleshooting tips that you can keep a note, and make sure that these scenarios are observed. I mean, based on the type of issues that you observe. So thanks for your time. Thank you for watching this. Have a nice day.